Hello students, today we will be starting the lesson Agriculture. Read the famous poem in Kannada written by Rashtrakavi Kuempu. In this poem, words like Uluva Yogi, the person who plows, Annava Dudivane Tyagi, the person who sacrifices themselves and produces food have been used. Can you guess who that person is? Write your answer in the box given below. So when you look at the clues that are given, which include clues like person who plows the field and person who sacrifices themselves and produces food. Also, when you look at the image that we can see here, we can understand that they are talking about farmers. So our answer is farmers. This poem is composed on farmers who provide us food. Agriculture is the main occupation for the farmers. So, farmers are also called agriculturists. Agriculturists engage themselves in agriculture and related activities to lead their life. So, we have learned that agriculture is the main occupation for farmers and they're also called as agriculturists. So this lesson has a lot of content in it and it's a big lesson, but we will understand it part by part. After studying this lesson, you understand the various stages of agriculture and from where we get food, understand the nature of work and the problems of the farm laborers, small scale farmers, and large scale farmers and give solutions. Understand organic farming and chemical farming and differentiate it. Know about rain fed agricultural land and irrigated agricultural land. Understand drip irrigation and spray irrigation and make a list of crops that grown in both methods. Collect information about intensive farming, mixed farming and horticulture. Recognize the modern and traditional methods or systems of seed storage. First activity is for us to remember and observe the people who are working in the farms and fields. Remember the work they do there. Make a list of them. You can take some time to remember whenever you have seen a farm or a field and when you have seen people working in it, what would they be doing? One, you might have seen images like this where a farmer is working with their animals to plow the field. So one of the things that people work in fields do can be to plow the field. Okay. Now what else have we seen people do? Next, we have also observed sometimes that people would be watering their crops using either manual or irrigation methods. So the next thing can be watering the crops or irrigation. Okay. What else have we seen people do in fields? Have you ever seen people who will stand and try to throw the seeds so that they get sown into the soil? This is also one of the things that we might have seen people working in farms and fields do. So, seeding. So, scarecrows might look like this. They're created by farmers to make sure that birds and other pests do not destroy or cause damage to the crops. So, another activity for farmers is keeping birds and pests away. Okay, so I want you to think of some other activities that you have seen farmers do and write it down in the fifth space given below. Next, we have a list of districts and important crops that are grown in the districts of Karnataka. The crops that are grown in any particular region depend on factors like the amount of rainfall that region receives, the irrigation facilities available, the amount of sunlight the region receives, and the type of soil that is predominant in that region. So, the type of crop that is grown in any region depends on a number of factors. Like I said, it depends on the amount of rainfall that is received in that region, the irrigation facilities, the type of soil, and also the amount of sunlight that is received by that region. So you can go through this list in detail and check what are the type of crops that is grown in your district. Next, make a list of the main crops of your district. So here we have the list of the districts and here we have the list of important crops. So go through this list one by one and find your district. For example, if your district is Hassan, then you need to make a list of these crops that are given here. That includes paddy, horse gram, ragi, tobacco, coffee, and sugarcane. Similarly, find your district and make a list of them over here. Now it's time for a quiz. The question is, which factors decide the best suited type of crops for a region? Like we saw in the list of districts, each district had a list of crops that was best suited for its region. Which of these factors are deciding factors? The options are nature of soil, amount of rainfall, climate of the region, or all of the above. If you need time to think, you can pause the video. The correct answer is all of the above. So all of these factors play a role in deciding which crop is suited for which region. For the next activity, look at the pictures given below. Read the statements given in front of the pictures. The pictures and statements do not match with each other. Match the pictures with the correct statements by drawing a line. Let us take a look at the first picture that we see here. Here we see a farmer who is standing or sitting next to full grown crops. So we can understand that the crops are fully grown and the harvest cycle is nearly complete. The farmer is now trying to get the crop by harvesting it. Therefore, what we see here is the last part of the agricultural cycle where harvesting of crops is either done manually or with the help of machines. In this picture, it is being done manually. In the next photo, if you observe, we can see a farmer is holding a stone that is tied to a long string. This is one of the techniques that is used to scare away birds. In the next part of the same two photos, we can see a farmer that is spraying something for all of his crops. These two techniques are used to make sure the crop is not damaged by animals, birds, insects, or other pests. Therefore, these two pictures need to be matched to this statement, protecting the crops from animals, birds, insects, and diseases. In the next one, we have a farmer who is throwing something into the field. This is one of the techniques where either chemical or organic fertilizers are used to make sure that crops are grown properly. So we can see here that crops are grown, not they are not fully grown, but they are grown to some extent. Therefore, when crops have reached this part of the growth cycle, we can supply them with chemical or organic fertilizers for more proper and better growth. In the next image, we see there is a water motor and that is supplying water to the field. Therefore, water is being supplied to the field through irrigation. So, we need to match this with this statement which says irrigation for the proper growth of plants. In the next picture, we see another farmer who is plowing the field. She's doing it with the help of animals. So plowing the field needs to be done to ensure soil is turned over to preserve the fertility of the soil. Therefore, this is a picture where plowing of the land is taking place. In the last picture, we can see two farmers who are sowing the seeds into the land to grow the crops. You have matched the pictures with the correct statements, haven't you? These are the stages of growing crops. So we saw 6 different stages of growing crops through the 6 different images that we saw. You have matched the pictures with the correct statements, but they are not in proper order. Write them in the correct order in the space given below. Therefore, we need to make sure that the order of the stages of growing crops is proper. So now let us take a look at these pictures. Firstly, here we have a picture where the soil is still empty and no crops are sown yet. So this is the first stage of growing crops where we need to plow the land to grow crops properly to increase the fertility of the soil. Therefore, this is the first stage, plowing the land to grow crops. Next, once the soil is ready, we need to add the seeds. Seeds are where we get the crops from, right? So we need to add the seeds to the land. Therefore, this is the second stage of crop growing where sowing of the seeds to grow crops is done. Once the seed is sown into the soil, we have learned that plants need water for growth. Therefore, we need to supply water through irrigation to make sure that the crops are grown properly. The third stage is irrigation for the proper growth of crops. To increase the fertility of the land and to help for the healthy growth of crops, we can supply the land with chemical or organic fertilizers for the proper growth of the crop. Once the crop is healthily growing, we have to make sure that it's not damaged by external agents like animals, birds, insects, or diseases. So, the fifth stage of growing crops is protecting the crops from external agents like animals, birds, insects, and diseases. Okay, once we have successfully grown the crop, it is ready for harvesting. As we can see in the first image, the final stage of growing crops is harvesting the crop either manually or with the help of machines. The next activity is think. Plants grown on agricultural field are called crops. Why? So the difference between plants and crops is that crops are grown for economic benefits. Okay, that is why there are two different terms that are given. One is plants, which are grown in the wild, and crops, which are grown for economic benefits in agricultural fields. You know that farmers involve themselves in agriculture related work. The farmers working in the fields are of 3 categories. Okay, the first one are farm laborers, second one are small scale farmers, and we have large scale farmers. So we saw there are 3 different categories of farmers. Now read the information given below. Try to understand the 3 categories of the farmers. You can take the help of your teachers or elders. It is a village. All the people of the village are living with love, faith, and peaceful coexistence. So it is a very happy village, and Rangama belongs to the same village. So we can see here this is Rangama and she is a part of the same village. She does not have agricultural land of her own. So Rangama does not have agricultural land of her own. It is her responsibility to manage her family. Therefore, so she does weeding, planting and separating cotton from the plant in the other farms. Okay, so here we have Rangama and she does not have agricultural land of her own. So she is responsible for doing weeding, planting and separating cotton from the plants in other farms. So in other farms, she does this work. Okay, and now we talk about Julakamma of the same village. So, Julakamma of the same village is a close friend of Rangama. This is Julakamma. Julakamma is a farmer. She owns a piece of land. Therefore, she owns a piece of land. She runs her family by selling crops grown in her farm. Okay, so she runs her family by selling crops that are grown on her farm. So we can see the difference between Rangama and Julkama here. So in case of Rangama, she was doing all these in other people's farms. So she was helping other people because she did not have her own farm. But Julakama, she owns a piece of farm and she runs her family by selling crops that are grown on her farm. And both these women have another friend. Both these women like Manjamma very much. So we see here this lady is Manjamma. Okay, and Manjamma is a successful lady agriculturalist. Okay, so she is a successful lady agriculturist. She owns about 10 to 15 acres of land in the village. Many women of the village, like Rangama, work in her agriculture land. So Manjamma has her own land and Rangama works in agricultural land of Manjamma. Information, haven't you? Now match the characters in the information with the correct words. So let us remember what we learned about each of the three people we learned. First, let's talk about Rangama. So we know that Rangama does not have agricultural land and she does weeding, planting and separating cotton and other jobs for people who have farms. Therefore, we can understand that Rangama is a farm laborer. The characteristics of farm laborers are they do not have land of their own, but they help others on their land. Now let us remember what we learned about Julakama. We learned that Julakama owns a piece of land and she runs her family by selling crop grown on her farm. Okay, because she has a piece of land, we can understand that she is a small scale farmer. Now let us recall what we learned about Manjama. Manjama is a successful lady agriculturist who owns 10 to 15 acres of agricultural land. She rears fowl and cattle and she purchases modern agriculture equipment. Also, she is involved in apiculture, which is growing honeybees, rearing honeybees, and sericulture, which is silkworm breeding. Therefore, we can understand that Manjama is a large-scale farmer. Let us look into the characteristics of the three categories of agriculturists one by one. First, let us talk about farm laborers. We learned that farm laborers like Manjama do not have their own agriculture land and they work in some other person's field to earn their living. Farm laborers have problems of their own. For example, we learnt about the 6 different stages of crop cycle, right? So there are only some stages which need help from other laborers. So people who are owners of the land, they request the farm laborers to come and work in their land only during some seasons. For example, during harvest season, crop owners might need help in harvesting all the crop. That is when they will request the farm laborers to come and help them. However, during other seasons, when crops are still growing or when the land is still waiting for seed sowing to happen, farm laborers might not have any work to do. Hence, it is difficult for them to earn money during those seasons. Now let us look into some other statements and see if the problems related to the farm laborers are correct or not. Put a tick mark to the statements that are related and a cross mark that are not related to the problems of farm laborers. The first statement is farm laborers do not get work throughout the year. Like we just learnt about this statement is correct. Farm laborers get work usually in the busy seasons of the year, like during harvest season. Okay. The second statement is they get very less wage. This is also true. Comparative to the landowners, farm laborers make lesser wage. The third statement is farm laborers are very rich. This statement is not correct. This is false because we just learned that they get very less wage. So it's not possible that they become very rich on those wages. The farm laborers, many rules have been implemented to solve the problems of farm laborers. For example, it is mandatory to give minimum wages to the laborers. So the government has set a minimum wage and it has made all the landowners mandatory to give that much minimum wage to the laborers. Think about the solutions to the problems of the farm laborers. With the help of your teacher, make a list of solutions for the problems of farm laborers. In order for farm laborers to obtain their own living, they can seek the help of self-help groups or cooperative societies. These organizations provide the laborers with subsidized goods and fundings for their business purposes. Next, we can also upskill the farm laborers by teaching them other skills. A very common upskilling that is taking place in Karnataka is by teaching the farm laborers preparation of food condiments so that they can make a living throughout the year. Very commonly prepared condiments include papads and pickles. Next, we will be talking about small-scale farmers. Small-scale farmers own a piece of land. So like we learnt about Julkama, who was a small-scale farmer, small-scale farmers, they all own a piece of land of their own. So they all own a piece of land of their own and they sell the crop that they grow in their field and earn money to lead life. Okay? So they also face a number of problems. For example, shortage of money to cultivate the land. As the land holding is little, their earning is not self-sufficient to lead the family. Okay, so because this amount of land they own is very small and the area is small, they might not be able to grow enough crop for them to sell and make a living out of it. Many times they don't get water for the land because of poor irrigation facilities. So we learned that irrigation and water is very important for the crops to grow. So if they don't get proper irrigation facilities, they might not be able to get good crop yields. They lack proper guidance to grow crops that suit soil fertility of their land or the seasons. So we learned that the distribution of crops across Karnataka depends on a number of factors, and one of the factors is that the crops that are grown in a particular region should suit the soil of that region. So if the small scale farmers lack the proper guidance to grow crops that are suitable to that particular soil, they will not be able to get good crop yields. Now, let us look at what has been done to solve their problems. A number of steps have been taken to solve their problems. For example, monetary aid through bank loans. So we learned that one of their problems is that their earnings is not self-sufficient and they do not have proper irrigation facilities. To help with these problems, banks and the government have been providing them with loans, and monetary aid is being obtained through bank loans. Another solution is irrigation facilities through canals. So if proper infrastructure is created for irrigation, then the crop yields would be better. Apart from these, many more solutions have been provided to these farmers. Make a list of them with the help of your teacher. I have given two solutions over here. Firstly, government schemes like Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, Rashtriya Kriti Vikas Yojana have been set up. With the help of these government schemes, it is aimed to provide small scale farmers monetary security. The next solution is organizations like Krishi Vigyan Kendra have been set up to guide farmers about scientific farming. We saw that one of the problems faced by farmers is that they lack proper guidance to grow crops that suit the fertility of their soil and that suit their seasons. So to help the farmers better follow scientific guidance for agriculture, organizations like Krishi Vigyan Kendra have been set up throughout the country. The next category of agriculturists are large-scale farmers. Usually, large-scale farmers own more agricultural land, and because the land is so large in area, in addition to family members, many others help them in agricultural practices. Some statements related to large-scale farmers are given here. Observe. They purchase and use modern agricultural equipment. They store the grains in barns or godowns, and they sell it when they get a better price. They utilize the monetary facilities of the banks. Their income is high as they grow different crops. Okay, so some characteristics of large scale farmers are they own more agricultural land, they purchase and use modern agricultural equipments. So in our village, Manjamma was a large scale farmer, and just like she purchased modern agricultural equipments, large scale farmers also purchase and use modern agricultural equipments. And because the yield or the amount of crops that they grow is very large, they store the grains in barns and godowns. And they wait for the price to get higher, and then they sell it when they get a better price. Also, they make use of the monetary facilities that are provided by the bank, and their income is high. Of the three categories of the agriculturists we learned, that is farm laborers, small scale farmers and large scale farmers, the income is the highest for large scale farmers. The next question is, what are the facilities that large scale farmers get from the bank? Discuss and write in the space given below. I have given two examples of the schemes that can be used by large-scale farmers. Firstly, they can take loans for construction and for management of rural godowns. So we saw that large-scale farmers use barns, godowns to store their grains and then to sell it. So for such constructions, they can go to the bank and they can get loan.
Think, there are many helpers in the field of large-scale farmers. Why? If you remember our large-scale farmer Manjamma, her land was 10 to 15 acres. Because the land is so big, it is not possible for one person or even one family to cultivate all the land. Therefore, they take the help of other workers. Now, it is time for a quiz. The question is, which category of agriculturists make highest income from agriculture? The options are farm laborers, small-scale farmers or large-scale farmers. The correct answer is large-scale farmers. Okay students, this is the end of part 1 of agriculture. I will see you all in part 2.